What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Victoria and in today's video we'll be making a halter neck top. So like always, I'll begin by drawing a horizontal line from the top of my pattern paper, and from that line I'll be taking all my vertical measurements, starting with my shoulder to bust measurement at 11 inches. I'm going to square out that point using my ruler and then indicate what it stands for. So this is my bust line, and from there I'll be going up by 2 inches. I'll square out that point as well, and that will become my chest line. Next, I'll be marking the full length of the top, and I decided to go with 21 inches. So just mark your desired length, and I'm going to be squaring out that point like I did for the others. I'll go ahead to indicate my center front before moving on to create the neckline and the shoulder slope. Now for the neck width, I'm marking 3.5 inches away from the center front, and for the neck depth I'm going with 1 inch. I'll connect the 2 points using my French curve like so, and then I'll move on to mark half of my across shoulder measurement on the shoulder line. So I marked 8 inches on that line, and from that point I'll be going down by 1 inch, and using my ruler I'll connect that point in a slant to meet the neckline. So there's my shoulder slope. Now I'm simply going to connect it straight down to meet the chest line. So now I'm just making sure it's straight before connecting it down to meet the chest line. And then I'm going to be marking the midpoint of that new line, and from that midpoint I'll be going in by 3/4 of an inch. I'm simply trying to create my armhole, and to do that I'll be marking 1/4 of my bust circumference on the chest line. So my bust circumference is 40 divided by 4, that's 10, and I'm marking that point away from the center front. And I'll just go ahead to create my armhole by connecting these points together using my French curve. Now because this top has no dart, I'll go ahead to connect the chest line straight down to meet the hemline, and I'll do that by adding 2 inches to the measurement I have on the chest line. So along the hemline I'm marking 12 inches, which is 1/4 of my bust circumference plus 2 inches, and I'm just going to go in with my ruler to connect the 2 points together. So now that that's done, I'll be moving on to create the halter neckline, and to do that I'll be coming down by 1 inch, which is the neck depth of the old neckline, and I'll be squaring that point across to meet the end of the shoulder slope, and that horizontal line will become my new neckline. I'll go ahead to indicate that, and the next thing to do is to come in by 5.5 or 5 inches from the center front along the new neckline. So it depends on how wide you want the halter neck to be. You can even go as far as 6 inches, that's up to you. I came in by 5.5, and now I'm just going to blend that point towards the armhole. So I'm going in with my French curve to blend the neckline into the armhole. You can also use a straight ruler or a pattern master if you have one. So right now I'm just going in with a different color marker just to highlight the halter neck area. And from the bottom I'll be coming up by 1.5 inch along the side. I'm just going to blend that point into the hemline. I'll just go ahead to cancel out all the parts I won't be needing before adding my seam allowances. And for the seam allowances, I'll be using 1 inch along the side and the hem, and 1/2 inch along the armhole. While along the neckline, I'll be adding 2 extra inches when cutting it onto fabric as a casing for the strap. So this is going to be the only pattern I'll be drafting for this top. I'll be using the same pattern to cut out the back piece as well, only I'll be cutting 2 separate pieces for the back. So now that I've made all my annotations, I'll go ahead to connect the allowances before cutting out the pattern. And when I'm all done with the pattern, I'll go ahead to cut onto fabric. So I've cut out my pieces using the pattern. Now here's the front piece, and as you can see it was cut on a fold along the center front. Now along the neck I did not include the 2 inches for the casing because I decided to go for a different fabric. So what I did was to add 1/2 inch allowance that I'll be using to join the main fabric to the casing. And for the casing I decided to go with this black stretchy crepe fabric with the length exactly the same as the neck of the main fabric, while the width is 2.5 inches. So I made it 2.5 because I'll be using 1/2 inch to attach it to the main fabric. Now here at the back pieces I used the same pattern to cut out the back, but instead of a fold it was separated at the center back. So I have 2 pieces here, and I also added 1 inch allowance along the center back, and I'll be using that to join the 2 back pieces together. I also left 1/2 inch along the neck that I'll be using to attach to the casing, and just like the front, the width of the casing is 2.5 inches as well, and I have 2 pieces of this. Okay, so now it's time to start putting the pieces together. Starting with the front, I'm just going to open it up And then I'll be taking the piece for the casing and I'll be placing the right side of it towards the right side of the main fabric. I'll take it to the machine and stitch them on a 1/2 inch sewing allowance, and I'll be doing the same for the back pieces. And when I'm done stitching, I'll go ahead to open up the seams and give it a good press so it lays flat. So I'm done pressing and it's all nice and flat. Now I'll go ahead to place the two back pieces together, right sides facing each other. But I will not be closing up the entire back because the back will have an opening and I'll be using 6 inches for that. Now from the very top, I'm marking 8 inches downwards because of the 2 inches for the casing. I'm going to be stitching the back closed all the way down from that point. And I'll be stitching on a 1 inch allowance because that's how much I left along the center back. So I'll just take this to the machine to stitch it down, and when I'm all done, I'm going to open it up. You can see how nice it looks, and there's the opening at the back. So now in order to nicely finish the opening at the back, I'm going to press open this seam and keep it in place using a hemming gum. This will hold everything down nicely and give the back a neat finish. So I'll be placing the hemming gum on the underside of the seam like so, and then I'm going to give it a good press and do the same for the other side as well. Okay, so I'm done placing the hemming gum and here's how it's looking. You can see how neat the center back is looking right now. So now I'll go ahead to place the front piece to the back piece, right sides facing each other, and I'll be joining the two pieces along the side using a 1 inch sewing allowance. And once that's done, I'll turn it over to the right side so I can finish off the armhole. And to do that, you can use a bias tape, but I ran out of bias tape, so I just cut 2 straps from the leftover fabric and I'll be using this as a bias tape. Once I'm done with the armhole, the next thing I'll be doing is to fold in the casing. And I'll be folding it towards the wrong side. First I'm going to fold in a little and then fold it over. I'll take this to the machine and run a stitch across and do the same for the back piece as well. And when I'm all done with that, the next thing to do is to create the strap that will be passed into the casing. For the strap, I decided to go with the plain black fabric. You can use the same fabric as the top if you want. So I'll be folding the strap like so, and I'll go ahead to run a stitch all the way to the end, and I'll be doing that on the wrong side of the fabric. And when I'm done with that, I'll just cut out the excess and turn the strap over to the right side. Then using a safety pin, I'll be passing the strap into the casing. I'll be starting from the front and I'll move over to the back piece. And when I'm all done with that, I'll just tie it at the center back. I also went ahead to hem the bottom, and now I'm just going to give this a good press, and that will be all for the top. So we've come to the end of this video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.